Welcome to a quiet sanctuary on Voice of Compassion. Imagine a small hut in the mountains. The air smells of pine and warm tea. The only sound is the wind in the bamboo. Tonight we invite you to sit with us, to leave behind the noise of the world, and perhaps even the noise of your own thoughts. We will share a timeless story about the art of receiving, about the wisdom of making space. Relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and open your mind to the story of A Cup Too Full. Story 4, A Cup Too Full to Receive. Part 1, The Arrival. Tanchals, the conversation. Before the tea, introduction, the hut in the mountains. The mountain was quiet, not empty, but quiet in the way a deep forest is quiet, full of life, yet not asking anything from you. Pine trees stood tall and still, their needles holding drops of mist. A thin path climbed between rocks and moss, winding upward like a slow thought. Somewhere far below, a river spoke in a soft, constant voice. Not rushing, not loud, just always there, like breath. Near the top of the path, hidden behind a small line of bamboo, there was a humble hut. It was made of wood and clay, with a simple roof that had weathered many winters. A small paper window glowed faintly with warm light inside. Smoke rose from a short chimney, thin and pale against the grey sky. Inside the hut, the air was warm. A kettle sat above a small fire. The water was close to boiling, making a gentle sound, soft bubbling, like the world whispering to itself. The smell of tea leaves rested in the room, earthy, clean, comforting. An old Zen master lived here. His name was Nan-in. He did not look important. His robe was plain, his sandals were worn, his hands were calm, like still water. He moved slowly, not because he was weak, but because he had no need to hurry. This morning, Nan-in sat on the floor near a low table. He waited, he listened, not only to the kettle, but to the mountain itself. Then, outside the hut, footsteps appeared, fast footsteps. Not the slow, mindful steps of a traveler who enjoys the path. These were steps that wanted to arrive. The sound came closer. Bamboo leaves trembled, a shadow fell across the doorway. A man stood outside. He was not dressed like a monk. He wore a fine coat and polished shoes that now carried mud. A leather bag hung at his side. His hair was neat, though the wind had touched it. His face held the look of someone used to being heard. This was Professor Harold Whitman. He had traveled far to reach this hut. Not because he was lost, but because he had a goal. The professor was famous. He taught philosophy at a great university. He wrote books. He gave lectures. People listened to him and took notes as if his words were precious. And still, inside him something felt restless. He did not sleep well. His mind never stopped moving. Even when he achieved one thing, he immediately wanted the next. When Harold heard stories of a Zen master in the mountains, he became curious. Some people called Nan-in wise. The professor disliked that word. Wise. It sounded soft, unclear, not proven. And yet the professor came anyway, telling himself it was for research. He told himself he wanted to understand Eastern thought. But deeper than that, he wanted to test it. He wanted to see if this simple mountain monk truly knew anything that a trained mind did not. The professor knocked. Nan-in's voice came from inside, gentle like a warm candle. "Please come in." The professor stepped into the hut. The warmth touched his face. The scent of tea reached him at once. For a moment he paused. The room was small, simple, clean, no shelves of books, no paintings of power, no signs of status, just a low table, 2 cushions, a kettle singing softly. Nan-in bowed his head slightly. The professor bowed back, but quickly, like a habit. Nanin gestured toward a cushion. "Sit," he said. Professor Whitman sat down. His knees were not used to the floor. His posture was stiff, as if his body still wanted a chair, a desk, a position. Nanin sat across from him. The professor looked at the old man closely. Nanin's face was calm, with quiet lines that looked like gentle rivers carved by time. His eyes were clear. Not sharp, not dull, just awake. The professor cleared his throat. "Master Nanin," he began, "thank you for receiving me." Nanin nodded. "You are welcome," he said. "The mountain is always open." The professor smiled slightly. "Yes, well, I have come because I have questions." Nanin's expression stayed peaceful. "Questions are like travelers," he said. "They come and they go." The professor blinked, not sure if he liked the answer. He opened his bag and took out a small notebook, then a pen. He placed them carefully beside him as if preparing for an interview. Nanin looked at the notebook and pen, then back at the professor. The kettle continued to whisper. The professor began. "I have studied Buddhism," he said. "I have read many texts. I understand the basic ideas. Non-attachment, emptiness, meditation, the self as an illusion." He spoke quickly, as if he did not want silence to interrupt him. Nanin listened without moving. The professor continued, warming up like a speaker on a stage. "In my view," he said, "Zen is a kind of psychological practice, a method to calm the mind. But some of its claims are unclear. For example, the idea of no mind and the use of paradox. Also the tradition of koans. These are interesting, but not always logically useful." He looked at Nanin, expecting a reaction, a debate, a disagreement, a chance to show his strength. But Nanin only nodded softly, as if listening to rain. The professor felt a small irritation, so he talked more. He explained theories, he compared systems, he used confident words, obviously, clearly. In academic terms, he spoke about famous thinkers. He mentioned names with pride. His voice filled the small hut. And still, Nanin stayed quiet. The professor heard the kettle again. It was close to boiling now. The sound had changed, sharper, more alive. He could smell the tea more strongly too, rich and grounding. But the professor did not pause. He said, "So, master, I want you to tell me your understanding of Zen. Tell me the truth of it. Explain it clearly, so I can compare it to what I already know." Nanin's eyes softened. He did not look offended. He did not look impressed. He simply looked at the professor the way the lake looks at the moon, reflecting, not judging. "Yes," Nanin said quietly. The professor leaned forward slightly, ready to catch the master's words. Nanin's hand moved toward the kettle. He stood up slowly. "I will make tea," he said. The professor paused, surprised. Tea? He came for wisdom, not hospitality. But he nodded anyway, trying to remain polite. Nanin lifted the kettle with steady hands. The professor watched the old master's movements. They were slow, careful, almost like a ceremony. Nanin placed 2 cups on the table, simple cups, plain, white with small cracks like fine lines of age. Then he brought a small tea tin and opened it. The scent rose into the air, warm, earthy, alive. Nanin took a small pinch of tea leaves and placed them into each cup. The professor's eyes followed the motion. He was still restless inside, still full of questions, full of opinions, full of thoughts that pushed forward like a crowd. He did not know that in a few moments he would see something he could not argue with, something simple, something silent, something that would turn his mind toward a new kind of understanding. Story 4. A cup too full to receive part 2. The tea tawas. The realization plus reflection. The key, seen the tea is poured. Nanin sat down again. The hut was very still now. Only the kettle made sound, a soft, living sound, water close to singing. Nan-in lifted the kettle with both hands. He did not speak. He simply began to pour. A thin stream of hot water fell into the first cup. At first, the sound was gentle, a small whisper of liquid meeting leaves. The tea leaves moved, slowly waking. They swirled like dark clouds in pale sky. The professor watched, quiet for the first time. Nan-in poured with steady patience. The tea rose, slowly, slowly. It climbed the inside of the cup like a calm tide returning to shore. The professor noticed the level reaching halfway, then higher, then near the top. Nan-in did not stop. The stream continued, smooth, unbroken. The tea rose to the rim. One more breath, and it touched the edge. The professor's eyes sharpened. Surely the master will stop now. But Nan-in did not stop. The tea swelled above the rim, trembling, shining, holding itself for a brief moment, and then spilled. A warm brown line rolled over the edge and fell down the side of the cup. It dripped onto the table. Drop, drop, drop. Then it flowed. A small river of tea ran across the wood and fell to the floor. The professor sat frozen. His mind shouted, "It's overflowing! Stop! Stop!" But Nan-in's face remained calm. The pouring continued. The cup could not hold more. The tea kept coming anyway. It spread, slow and steady across the table. It dripped from the edge like rain from a roof. The smell grew stronger, rich and deep. The hut filled with it. The professor stared as if watching time move in slow motion. At last, he could not hold himself. "Master," he said sharply, "the cup is full. It can't take any more." Nan-in continued pouring for one more second, then stopped. The stream ended. Silence returned. The kettle rested on the floor beside him. Nan-in looked at the professor gently. His voice was quiet, not accusing, not proud. "Like this cup," Nan-in said, "you are full." The professor's mouth opened, then closed. Nan-in's eyes did not leave him. "You come to me," Nan-in continued softly, "but your mind is already overflowing." The professor felt heat rise in his face. His first reaction was defense. "I am not full," he wanted to say. "I am educated. I am prepared. I have studied." But the tea was still dripping onto the floor. Drop, drop. And that sound felt louder than any argument. Nan-in gestured toward the cup. "How can I show you Zen?" he asked, "if you do not first empty your cup?" The realization. The professor sat very still. In his chest something moved. A tightness, a pride, a fear. He looked down at his notebook and pen on the floor beside him. He had come ready to capture, measure, compare. He had come ready to win. He had not come ready to listen, not truly. The professor's eyes returned to the teacup. It sat there calmly, as if it felt no shame. It simply could not hold more. The professor realized something slowly, like dawn. This is what I do, not only here, everywhere. In meetings, in conversations, in life, I enter with my cup already full, full of opinions, full of old ideas, full of the need to be right, full of my own voice. And then I wonder why nothing new enters me. His breath slowed. The hut felt warmer now, not only from the fire, but from the truth settling in. The professor's shoulders dropped slightly. His voice, when it came, was quieter than before. "How do I empty it?" he asked. Nan-in smiled, a small, gentle smile. He did not rush to answer. Instead, he reached for a cloth and slowly wiped the spilled tea from the table. His movements were unhurried, patient, simple. Then he spoke. "First," Nan-in said softly, "notice that it is full." The professor swallowed. Nanin placed the cloth down. Then, he continued, do not punish yourself for it. A cup becomes full by being used. The professor's throat tightened with emotion he did not expect. Nanin poured fresh tea into the second cup, this time stopping at the right moment. The tea rested quietly inside, warm and still. Then Nanin poured again into the first cup, but now he poured slowly, stopping before the rim. He slid the cup toward the professor. "Drink," he said. The professor lifted it with both hands. The cup was warm. The scent rose gently to his face. He took a sip. The taste was simple and deep. Earth, bitter, soft, real. The professor closed his eyes for a moment, and for the first time that morning, his mind was not speaking. It was only tasting, only being, reflection. And now, dear listener, maybe you have felt this too. You open a book, but your mind keeps saying, I already know this. You hear someone speak, but inside you think they are wrong. You sit in silence, but your thoughts keep pushing forward, loud and busy like a crowd inside your chest. Sometimes we believe we are learning, but we are only repeating ourselves. We carry old stories, old labels, old pride, old pain, and our inner cup stays full. So nothing new can enter, not peace, not understanding, not love, not healing. The truth is gentle. You do not need to become smaller. You do not need to feel stupid. You do not need to erase your knowledge. You only need space. A little room inside, a quiet place where life can speak to you again. Tonight, if you feel tired, if you feel stuck, if you feel like peace will not reach you, maybe your cup is full of should, full of must, full of I know, full of worry and control. So take one slow breath and let that breath be the first empty space. Not empty like nothing, empty like the open sky, empty like a lake that reflects the moon, empty like a cup that is ready to receive warm tea, and with it, a new way to see. Rest now. You do not have to carry every thought. You can set some down, and in that quiet space, something gentle can finally enter. The end. The tea is warm, the mind is clear. As you drift towards sleep or return to your day, carry this image with you, an empty cup. It is not a symbol of lack. It is a symbol of openness. When you feel overwhelmed, remember, you do not need to add more. You only need to empty a little. Make space for silence. Make space for the present moment. Thank you for being here with Voice of Compassion. Breathe in space, breathe out the clutter. Rest well.